Hi, welcome to our channel where we share the most intriguing stories. After 36 sleepless hours saving lives, Dr. Raymond Caldwell just wanted a shower and his bed. Instead, he found a steel gate blocking the road to his own home, his private road. What began as annoyance soon turned into a war, and someone was about to regret starting it. It had been 36 hours since I'd seen the inside of my house. 36 hours of blood, bone fractures, and adrenaline. My scrubs were crusted in things I'd rather not name. My knuckles ached from tension, and all I could think about was collapsing into bed for 10 hours of dreamless unconsciousness. That's all I needed. That, and a hot shower that could strip pain off a battleship. But when I finally turned off the highway and onto the familiar gravel curve of my private road, I was greeted not by the crunch of tires on crushed limestone, but by something entirely new and infuriating. Gates. Big, shiny black iron gates with vertical bars, a keypad, a security camera, and a smug little sign that read, "Welcome to Crestview Heights. Residents, use access card. Guests, $10 entry fee. No through traffic permitted." At first I thought I'd taken a wrong turn, but no. The dense line of pine trees, the old oak stump, the utility pole with the faded private drive, no outlet sign, they were all exactly where they should be. What wasn't where it should be was a goddamn gate in the middle of the only road to my house, a road that, I might add, I own. I rolled down the window and leaned out, blinking in disbelief. The sun was setting behind me, casting long shadows through the woods. I honked once, then twice. A little booth tucked off to the side buzzed to life, and a rent-a-cop waddled out like a duck in polyester. "Evening, sir," he said, adjusting his belt like he was about to issue a citation for breathing too loud. "Please scan your resident card or pay $10 for entry." "I'm sorry," I said, holding up a hand. "This is my road. I live at the end of it. There's no HOA out here. This is private property." He nodded, with the sympathetic patience of someone explaining algebra to a drunk. "Sir, I've been instructed that this road is now part of Crestview Heights community infrastructure. Residents have cards. Guests pay $10. "No, no, no," I snapped, gripping the steering wheel. "Listen carefully. My name is Dr. Raymond Caldwell. I built my house on that hill 10 years ago. I bought this land, and this road came with it. I've got the deed, the survey, and the receipts." He shrugged. "That may be, sir, but I don't have access to any of that. I have my instructions. No card, no free entry." I stared at him. I had been awake for a day and a half. I had performed 2 emergency surgeries. I had held pressure on a teenage boy's femoral artery with my bare hand for 45 minutes while he screamed for his mother. And now this clown was telling me I had to pay $10 to use my own damn road. I fumbled for my wallet, pulled out a crumpled $10 bill, and slapped it into his palm. "This is not over," I said. He nodded like he was offering a receipt at a drive-thru. "Enjoy your evening, sir." The gate buzzed open. I drove through slowly, every foot of gravel crunching under the tires like a betrayal. Crestview Heights loomed to my right, a gleaming new suburban development with oversized homes, perfectly manicured lawns, and mailbox clusters that probably had their own bylaws. I'd driven past it 100 times without a second glance. It wasn't part of my life, or so I thought. When I finally pulled into my driveway, I didn't go inside right away. I just sat there in the truck, engine ticking, jaw clenched. The adrenaline that had been keeping me upright for the last 36 hours started to wear off, but it was replaced with something worse. Rage. Not the loud, red-faced kind, the cold, surgical kind. The kind you feel when someone messes with the part of your life that doesn't belong to them. I eventually dragged myself inside, showered underwater, hot enough to sterilize instruments, and fell into bed with my fists still clenched. But sleep didn't come easy. Not with the image of that gate burning into my skull. Tomorrow, I told myself, we're going to find out what the hell is going on, and someone is going to answer for this. I woke up the next morning with that same acidic burn in my chest, the kind that didn't come from coffee or bad hospital cafeteria food, but from something deeper, something primal. I wasn't just pissed off, I was violated. Someone had rolled a gate across my goddamn property like it was theirs, like I didn't matter. And now, well-rested and no longer smelling like an autopsy room, I was ready to go to war. First stop was the filing cabinet in my home office. Second drawer from the top labeled property. I hadn't touched those documents in years, but everything was still neatly stacked in manila folders. Survey plats, purchase agreements, closing documents, title insurance, the whole bureaucratic buffet. I spread them out across the desk like a crime scene. The road was there, plain as day, listed under Parcel 11B, Caldwell R. The boundaries were marked in bold black lines. The road, my road, ran 1.5 miles from the county highway to my home, skirting around the edge of what is now the Crestview Heights development. Not through it, not part of it, alongside it. I double-checked the purchase date, May 2014. I cross-referenced that with the Articles of Formation for Crestview Heights HOA, which I pulled from the Public Records portal. They didn't exist until 2018. That meant I had 4 clean years of ownership before that overly ambitious real estate agent in yoga pants declared herself queen of the suburbs. My next call was to the number listed on the HOA's website. After 3 rings, a syrupy voice answered, "Crestview Heights Community Association. This is Monica." Of course it was. "Miss Sterling," I said, trying to keep my voice level. "This is Dr. Raymond Caldwell. I live on the property bordering your subdivision. I believe we need to talk about a gate that's been installed on my private road." "Oh, Dr. Caldwell," she said, like she was welcoming a new customer to a timeshare presentation. "Yes, we've been expecting your call. We recently completed infrastructure enhancements to better secure our community. You know how crime is these days. Doorbell thefts, suspicious vehicles, porch pirates. We installed the gates as a protective measure for everyone's benefit, including yours." "The road," I said slowly, "is mine." She chuckled, the kind of chuckle that says, "You poor, dumb man." "Well, that's a bit complicated." Our attorneys reviewed the situation and determined that the road technically aligns with the border of our community easement, so it's now under the jurisdiction of the HOA for security purposes. "No easement exists," I snapped. "There's nothing recorded." I checked. "Oh, but there's common law precedent for community access when an infrastructure supports multiple homes. We're simply formalizing what's already become the norm. You've driven through our neighborhood for years, haven't you?" "I've driven down my road to my house," I said, "and starting yesterday, I had to pay $10 to do it." "Well, we do offer resident access cards for a very reasonable fee, just $200 a month, or a one-time discounted annual rate of $500. You'd also need to enroll as a non-voting associate member of the HOA, but that's mostly a formality. I'm giving you 48 hours to remove that gate from my land. After that, I'll be filing an injunction and pursuing damages." She didn't miss a beat. "Of course, you're welcome to take legal action, but I should warn you, these things can be messy, expensive, time-consuming. Our legal team is quite experienced in property matters." I hung up before I said something that could be used against me in court. Next, I called a lawyer I'd worked with once before, years ago, when a neighbor tried to build a shed 2 feet into my boundary line. His name was Victor Lang. He looked like a wolf in a suit and billed like one too, but he was lethal when it came to land disputes. He came over that afternoon, reviewed my documents, and whistled low. "This is going to be fun," he said. "They're bluffing. There's no easement, no vote, no legal framework for what they did. This is textbook overreach. The HOA is trespassing on your property with that gate." He paused, flipping through the parcel maps. "And if we can show that they're interfering with your ability to access your home, you might even have a case for damages." "Good," I said. "Let's make it hurt." Victor had his assistant file a cease and desist letter that very evening. Official demand for gate removal sent to both Monica Sterling and the Crestview Heights HOA board, delivered by courier and email. 48 hours. That was their window. By sunset, I'd already installed 2 motion sensor cameras facing the gate. Not for decoration, not for intimidation, for evidence. It was just after 2 in the morning when my phone lit up beside the bed, vibrating violently against the wood of my nightstand. I didn't need to check the caller ID. I knew that ringtone. Trauma call, the kind of ringtone that doesn't ring for good news. I was out of bed and dressed in under 2 minutes. By the time I slammed the front door behind me, the adrenaline had already burned through whatever rest I'd managed to get. I didn't even notice I'd thrown on mismatched shoes. The call was bad. Multiple vehicle collision on Interstate 40. 3 cars. 1 flipped. Several criticals. Every trauma surgeon within reach was being pulled in. They needed me now. I flew down my driveway, headlights slicing through the dark, gravel spraying as I hit the turn onto my road. Except, of course, I didn't hit the road. I hit the damn gate. There it stood, motionless, lifeless, smug. Steel bars gleaming under the moonlight, keypad dark as death. No guard in sight, no lights in the booth, no one. I slammed the truck into park and jumped out. "Hey!" I shouted, banging on the call box. "Emergency! Open the damn gate!" Nothing. I checked the keypad. Dead. The emergency intercom. Unresponsive. I pounded on it until my hand throbbed. I pulled out my phone, called the number posted on the gate for non-resident support. It rang 5 times, then dumped me to a generic voicemail. I cursed out loud, kicked the bottom of the gate hard enough to rattle it, then ran back to the truck. I tried every override code Victor had found from public documentation. No dice. I didn't have a card. And even if I did, apparently they were programmed to reject non-HOA participants. I could have gone through it with the truck, but these weren't wooden slats. They were reinforced steel posts sunk into concrete footings. My Silverado wouldn't make a dent. I'd need a tank. Every second was a second I wasn't in the OR. I opened the GPS and scanned for an alternate route. There was one, a barely maintained service road that curved through the national forest, technically passable with 4-wheel drive, 12 miles. On a good day, it was a hiking trail with ambitions, but I didn't have options, so I punched it. Branches clawed at the sides of my truck like fingernails. Mud flew. I fishtailed at every turn. A deer bolted across the trail and I nearly clipped it. I was drenched in sweat by the time I hit the highway again, roaring toward the hospital with a cracked side mirror and a growl in my throat that could peel paint. When I burst into the trauma bay, they were already working on 3 patients. One had a collapsed lung. Another had a compound fracture with arterial bleeding. The third, the worst, was already being bagged. I jumped in without hesitation, grabbing clamps, shouting for suction, but it was too late. He coded on the table. A young man, maybe 20. Pinned in the wreck for 15 minutes. If I had been there earlier, if I hadn't been locked in by that monument to suburban paranoia, I might have had a shot. Might have. After the post-mortem debrief, I found myself sitting in the locker room, staring at a blank wall. My hands were clean, but I could still feel the blood under my fingernails. My jaw hurt from clenching. My vision blurred, not from tears, but from rage. I could accept death. I'd walked beside it my whole career, but this wasn't fate. This was manufactured, a delay created by a power-hungry realtor and her HOA cronies who thought a gate was more important than a life. I drove home as the sun was rising. The gate was still there, still closed, still mocking me. I didn't stop. I didn't look. I just drove the long way around, white-knuckling the wheel, planning my next move. Something had broken that night. Not just a life, not just a truck mirror, something in me. They wanted a war. They were about to get one. The next morning, I didn't go to work. I couldn't. Not because I was still suspended, though I was, but because if I stepped foot in that hospital without doing something about that damn gate, I'd probably end up in jail for assaulting a bureaucrat. Instead, I sat across the table from Victor Lang, who had already finished 1 black coffee and was halfway through demolishing a powdered donut like it owed him money. "So let me get this straight," he said, licking sugar off his thumb. "They blocked your access to your own property, impeded an emergency response, and the patient died?" "Yes." "And you've got it in writing that you own the road?" "Yes." "And you have timestamps on when you left your house and when you arrived at the hospital?" "Yes." "Hospital entry log, GPS data from my truck, even cell tower pings." Victor leaned back in the chair, smiling like a man who just found a legal loophole he could drive a truck through. "Then I hope Monica Sterling has a good criminal attorney because this just became a goddamn homicide assist." He stood up and started pacing. "Here's what we're going to do. First, civil suit, demanding immediate removal of the gate, restoration of access, and monetary damages for interference with property rights. We'll open with $500,000. That'll get their attention. Second," he continued, holding up fingers like he was ordering at a deli, "we file a criminal complaint with the Sheriff's Department for obstruction of emergency services. That's a Class 1 felony in North Carolina. Blocking EMTs or a physician en route to a trauma call, that's not just negligence. That's reckless endangerment." I nodded slowly. "Do it." That afternoon, Victor's assistant hand-delivered the lawsuit to the Crestview Heights HOA office, an over-glorified shed with a bronze plaque and fake ivy. A copy went to Monica's personal address, another to the county clerk, just for flavor. 3 hours later, Monica fired back. They weren't backing down. Her lawyers submitted a counterclaim stating that my road, had become a community ingress corridor over time and now functioned as a de facto public easement under implied dedication. Bullshit. They accused me of obstructing public access, of harassment toward their security staff, and, get this, of creating a hostile atmosphere for residents by aggressively confronting them during gate interactions. In other words, by being pissed off that I had to pay to enter my own land, I was now the bad guy. Victor laughed so hard at that last part he actually choked on his coffee, but things escalated quickly. A local blog picked up the story, spinning it as local surgeon sues HOA after gated community blocks emergency services. Within a day, a local news station parked a van outside my property line, filming the gate like it was the Berlin Wall. They wanted an interview. I declined. That same night, a woman from 3 doors down in Crestview Heights knocked on my door. I recognized her vaguely. Tall, mid-40s, always jogging in neon. "I just want you to know," she said nervously, glancing back toward the main road. "Not all of us support what Monica's doing. She didn't tell anyone about the gate being on your land. We only found out because of the lawsuit." So the cracks had begun to show. Victor smelled blood. "We need internal documents," he said. "Emails, board minutes, any record that shows this gate wasn't properly authorized." I looked at him. "You think someone on the inside will flip?" He grinned like the devil in a tailored jacket. "They always do." By the end of the week, we'd found our guy. A former HOA board member who'd resigned quietly 6 months ago over philosophical disagreements. Translation: he got tired of Monica treating the neighborhood like her own personal fiefdom. He agreed to talk. Anonymously at first. He confirmed what we suspected. The gate had never been officially approved by the HOA majority. Monica had strong-armed a minority vote and steamrolled the process. Worse, she was collecting the access card fees outside of HOA accounting. We were building a case, brick by brick, filing by filing, fact by damning fact. And for the first time since this started, I felt something shift. It wasn't just a lawsuit anymore. It was war. The gloves came off fast. 2 days after we filed the lawsuit, my hospital administrator called me into his office. He looked uncomfortable, like a man who'd just been handed a turd and asked to plate it as dessert. "We received a formal complaint," he said, folding his hands on the desk. "An allegation of professional misconduct from the Crestview Heights Homeowners Association." I blinked. "The Homeowners Association filed a medical complaint against me?" He nodded grimly. "They claim you delayed arrival at the hospital during a trauma emergency, resulting in the death of a patient. They included an anonymous witness statement alleging you were hostile and erratic at the gate and that your delay was self-inflicted. The medical board is required to open a preliminary review." For a long moment, I said nothing. My pulse thudded in my ears, not from fear, from pure, concentrated rage. "I was locked out," I finally said, "by unauthorized gates built on my land, the only access to my home. This isn't a medical issue. It's criminal interference." He raised his hands. "I believe you, but the board has to do their due diligence. In the meantime, I'm afraid we have to place you on temporary suspension." I walked out of the office, past the nurse's station, past the OR doors I knew like the back of my hand. I'd saved lives in that hospital, held hearts in my hands, and now I was being sidelined because some vindictive suburban tyrant decided to play HOA overlord. That evening, Victor called with more bad news. "Monica's going for character assassination," he said. "There's a smear campaign going on next door in local Facebook groups. Half the residents of Crestview think you're some rogue doctor who snaps under pressure. She's scared," I muttered. And she should be. But Monica didn't stop there. The next morning, 2 men in black tactical-looking uniforms set up a folding table just beside the gate. One of them leaned against an SUV with private security decals. The other paced with a clipboard. Neither of them smiled. They weren't guards. They were enforcers. By that afternoon, a new sign appeared under the main plaque. "Do not tamper with HOA infrastructure. Unauthorized alteration will be prosecuted as vandalism." Nice touch. I parked about 20 feet from the gate and stepped out, phone in hand, filming everything. "Morning, fellas," I called. The taller one looked up, expression blank behind aviators. "Sir, please step back. This is HOA-controlled property. You are not permitted to approach the gate without authorization." "It's my goddamn road." "Sir," he repeated calmly, Any attempt to damage or alter this structure will be met with immediate police response. I smiled. Good. That'll save me the call. I uploaded the footage that evening with a simple caption, HOA security guards blocking me from my own property. Sound legal to you? It hit a nerve. The post went viral locally. People were pissed. Even those who didn't know me started asking uncomfortable questions. Can an HOA really do that? Wait, isn't that illegal? Victor wasn't finished. He had a drone guy, some tech nerd named Benny, who probably lived in his mom's basement but knew FAA regulations by heart. Benny launched a quiet surveillance drone and got footage of the gate activity from high above, including Monica herself showing up in heels and a power suit, handing envelopes to the security crew. Cash payments, Benny muttered while reviewing the footage. She doesn't use HOA checks, no traceable paper trail. Victor grinned like he'd just hit a vein of gold. But then came Monica's next move, the fake documents. A local news station ran a segment titled, Doctor's Lawsuit Questioned. Did he sign rode over to HOA? Alongside the anchor's dramatized narration, they displayed a document, poorly scanned but official looking, with a signature that looked like mine and a blurry HOA stamp. According to this document, I had agreed in late 2019 to allow the Crestview Heights HOA administrative stewardship over the access road in exchange for road maintenance discounts. It was complete and utter fabrication, and dangerous. Victor hit the roof. They forged your signature, he growled, flipping through the scanned PDF like it might catch fire. They're trying to sway public opinion before this hits the courtroom. But how? I asked. Where did they even get a sample signature? He glanced at the camera drone footage, then back at the document. Doesn't matter. We've got the original deed. We've got digital timestamps. And we're going to bury them with this in court. We did more than that. Victor tracked down the notary listed on the fake document. Turned out she'd lost her commission in 2018 for certifying signatures without presence of the signer. A little digging revealed she was Monica's cousin. Victor filed for injunctive relief and sent the forged document to the DA's office. But the pièce de résistance came from the drone again. Benny had repositioned it to hover near the security post, zoomed in to catch what we hoped was procedural violations. What we got was better. One rainy Tuesday afternoon, a county ambulance rolled up to the gate. It had lights on, but no siren. The guards didn't move. One got up from his chair, ambled to the keypad, then turned around and shook his head. They didn't let the ambulance through. We caught the whole thing on tape, 90 full seconds of delay before the paramedics had to reverse and find another route. That 90 seconds could have killed someone. Victor's voice shook with excitement when he watched the footage. This, he said, is obstruction of emergency services on video. This isn't just HOA overreach anymore. This is a goddamn felony. We had the footage transcribed, time-stamped, and submitted as supplemental evidence in both the civil and criminal complaints. Victor also sent copies to every local reporter within 60 miles. The story changed overnight. Now the headlines read, Surgeon locked out, ambulance blocked, HOA faces criminal investigation. Monica tried to do damage control. Issued a statement about malfunctioning equipment and unfortunate misunderstandings. Claimed the document was leaked prematurely and under review. Too late. The story had legs. And those legs were kicking her in the teeth. When the video of the ambulance hit the airwaves, everything cracked. The clip played on local news loops for days. No narration was needed. Just 90 seconds of grainy footage, rain-slicked asphalt, flashing red and white lights, and two bored-looking security guards refusing to open a gate. One even checked his phone while the ambulance reversed. It was raw, real, and infuriating. Victor was nearly giddy. We don't even need a narrator, he said, sipping bourbon that evening in my kitchen. This tape is the story. No spin, just proof. Solid, admissible, irrefutable proof. By the next morning, my inbox was flooded with interview requests. CNN wanted a segment. A legal podcast with 300,000 subscribers offered me a full episode. The state medical board. They quietly closed the complaint against me with a short statement. No violation of medical ethics found. Delay due to external obstruction. I wasn't reinstated at the hospital just yet. They wanted the legal mess fully cleared, but the pressure had shifted. Monica Sterling, HOA Queen of Gated Glory, was no longer on offense. She was bleeding. Still, Victor wasn't satisfied with bleeding. He wanted dismemberment. He turned to the next phase of our assault, the money trail. We started by pulling financial records from the HOA's annual filings, available to the public with some light wrangling. Something wasn't adding up. According to their statements, the HOA had collected roughly $52,000 in security infrastructure fees over the past 3 quarters. But we'd spoken to several residents who had paid directly for gate access cards, $200 per household, sometimes cash, sometimes Venmo, always informal. Victor crunched the numbers with his accountant. Best estimate, over $14,000 collected outside of the HOA's official books. Where the hell is it going? I asked. Where else? Victor muttered. Check Monica's personal accounts. Now, getting access to her banking info legally wasn't easy, but Victor had a tool, discovery. Since our lawsuit now included financial damages and possible fraud, we filed a motion for full disclosure of any accounts related to the Crestview Gate project, including personal transfers if HOA funds had been commingled. The judge granted it. 2 weeks later, the spreadsheet landed in Victor's inbox. $14,362 in deposits, labeled access fee, guest pass, security contribution, routed directly to Monica Sterling's personal checking account. Victor read the numbers twice, then once aloud. She's going down, he said, voice like granite. That same day, something unexpected happened. One of the current HOA board members reached out through a burner Gmail. They wanted to talk, privately, off the record. We met them at a diner 2 towns over. Middle-aged man, polo shirt, khakis. He looked like every guy who'd ever told you your porch lights were the wrong color temperature. Nervous, but solid. I didn't know, he said. None of us did. Monica said the road was community property. She never mentioned the lawsuit until the media blew up. Victor leaned forward. Did the board ever vote on installing the gate? He shook his head. She said it was an emergency measure, claimed she had legal authority under the Community Protection Clause in the bylaws, which doesn't apply, Victor said flatly. Not to external roads, not to non-member property. The man nodded. Well, I pulled the minutes from 6 months ago. There was a vote to expand infrastructure, but when someone brought up your road, it was shut down. Voted down, 35 against, 24 for. He slid a folder across the table. Photocopies, meeting minutes, a printed map with Monica's handwriting circled in red pen. Add Caldwell's road as HOA boundary, future. She'd planned to annex my road months before this even started. Victor's eyes lit up. Do you mind if we use this? Hell no, the man said. Just leave my name out of it. We had everything we needed to bury her, but it got better. Remember that little booth at the gate? The one with the keypad and the useless guards? Turns out it had a security system of its own, installed by a private contractor Monica hired off books. What she didn't realize was that the system backed up all recordings to a local server, housed in a supply cabinet behind the booth's paneling. One of the guards, ex-military fired for asking too many questions, got pissed when his final check bounced. He called Victor and offered access in exchange for immunity and a clean recommendation. We took the deal. What we found on the footage was nothing short of damning. Multiple recordings showed guards refusing entry to non-residents, even when ambulances or emergency vehicles arrived. On one video, Monica herself can be seen at the gate, instructing the guards directly. If it's Caldwell, don't open. I don't care if he's got flashing lights and a badge. He wants access. He pays. In another, she jokes with a board member. Maybe if we block him long enough, he'll just sell the house and get out. Then we can redo the lot lines. We sent the videos to the county prosecutor, the sheriff, the local press, and, just for fun, Monica's own attorney. 3 days later, I heard from a different HOA board member. They were calling an emergency meeting, a vote of no confidence. The writing was on the wall, or in this case, the high-definition video. And Monica. She was about to learn what happens when you gate yourself into a corner. The HOA clubhouse was a beige stucco cube with delusions of grandeur, fake columns, overwatered shrubs, and a flagpole that hadn't seen an American flag since Memorial Day. Inside, the folding chairs were arranged in a wide horseshoe, facing the front podium where Monica usually held court like a queen with a clipboard. Tonight, the court had turned against her. I wasn't supposed to be there, not technically. As a non-member and known aggressor, her words, I had no place at a Crestview Heights emergency board meeting. But when the sheriff himself walked in and took a seat near the back, no one said a word as I followed. Victor came too, briefcase in one hand, the other clutching a flash drive like it was a grenade. The room was full. Residents packed the rows, some standing along the walls. Many looked angry. A few looked confused. One man near the door whispered, "Did she really block an ambulance?" The woman next to him nodded grimly. Twice. At the front, Monica stood ramrod straight, lips pursed in a plastic smile. She wore a red power suit and the look of someone still hoping to bluff her way out of a house fire. "This meeting," she began, tapping the mic, "was called by concerned members of the board, and while I do not believe it is procedurally necessary, I am happy to answer any questions about recent misunderstandings." A man in the second row, one of the original board members, stood. "We've seen the footage. We've read the documents. Monica, you lied to us." Gasps. Not from the accusation. Everyone knew. From the fact that someone finally said it out loud. "You told us the gate was legally installed," he continued. "That it had board approval, that the road was common access. You said you consulted the county." Monica's smile twitched. "I did what was best for the community." "No, you did what was best for your image," the man snapped. "You made this neighborhood a national headline. You blocked emergency services. You forged documents. You took money." Victor stepped forward. "With the board's permission, I'd like to present supplemental evidence. Videos, financial records, and internal HOA correspondence, all verifying Ms. Sterling's unilateral decisions and misuse of funds." Monica cut in, voice rising. "This is a setup. You all are letting that man," she pointed at me like I was patient zero, "control the narrative. He hates this community. He's been trying to sabotage us from day one." "Lady," someone muttered from the back, "he literally owns the road we all drive on." Victor connected the laptop to the projector. The first video played. Monica laughing with a board member. "Maybe if we block him long enough, he'll just sell the house and get out." Gasps turned into low murmurs. Next clip, her instructing guards to deny me access, even in emergency situations. The worst one was last, the footage of the ambulance at night, lights spinning, denied access for over a minute. By the time the video ended, the murmurs had become rage. Voices raised, people shouting. One woman demanded a full audit. Another threatened to sue the HOA herself. A man in a golf visor yelled, "You put my kids at risk for your damn gate." The sheriff stood, calmly like he'd been waiting for the right moment. "Miss Sterling, I have here a warrant for the seizure of HOA financial records and a request for your cooperation in an active criminal investigation regarding obstruction of emergency services and financial misappropriation." Monica went pale. The red of her blazer looked louder against her skin. "You can't. This is political. This is retaliation." "No, ma'am," the sheriff said, stepping closer. "This is the law." She was escorted out. No cuffs, yet. But the silence in the room as she walked past was louder than a siren. Her kingdom had fallen. The queen was ousted. A board member, one of the quieter ones, stood and cleared his throat. "We'll be voting now," he said. "Motion to permanently remove Monica Sterling as HOA president and suspend her membership pending investigation." A sea of hands went up. It was unanimous. The new president, a middle-aged woman with librarian glasses and the vibe of someone who never wanted this job, turned to me and said, "We'll remove the gate within 72 hours, Dr. Caldwell. And we owe you more than an apology." I didn't say much, just nodded, turned to Victor, and we walked out together. Outside, the night air smelled like cut grass and justice. Victor clapped me on the back. "I told you," he said. "Always document everything." "Let's go home," I said. And for the first time in weeks, I meant that literally. 3 weeks later, the gate was gone. No ceremony, no notice. Just a crew of quiet workers in unmarked trucks who showed up at dawn and had the whole thing disassembled by noon. Bolts unscrewed, posts hauled out with winches, the keypad yanked from the ground like a dead root. The only thing left was a patch of disturbed gravel and a faint outline where the concrete had been poured without my permission. I watched from my porch, coffee in hand, wrapped in the kind of silence you don't realize you've missed until it returns. Victor called that afternoon. Settlement finalized. They're cutting you a check for $120,000. Judge signed the demolition order 2 days ago. Officially declared the gate unlawful obstruction. HOA has to cover legal costs. And Monica. States pursuing charges: fraud, misappropriation, obstruction. Her lawyer tried to negotiate a plea, but the DA isn't biting. The ambulance footage made that impossible. They'll get her on at least 2 felonies. Maybe more. He paused. Family of the patient who died. They filed a civil suit against her directly. Wrongful death. It's going to drag her through court for years. I didn't say anything. He didn't press. We hung up. I wasn't back at the hospital yet. The board had cleared me. No disciplinary action, no record, but I'd taken another 2 weeks off, partly to deal with the fallout, partly because I needed time to remember who I was before a gate turned my life into a legal war zone. I spent my mornings rebuilding a section of the fence along the southern ridge. Just me, a hammer, and the hum of cicadas. No cameras, no emails, no HOA drama. Just wood, sweat, and quiet. The new HOA president, Karen Miles, stopped by one afternoon. She didn't stay long. She brought a formal letter of apology, signed by all 12 current board members, and a basket of wine and cheese that probably cost more than my truck's last oil change. I didn't read the letter, but I kept the wine. "Thank you for not suing the whole neighborhood," she said as she handed it over. "You could have. A lot of them deserved it." "Some of them didn't," I said. She nodded. "We're going to run things differently now. No more gates. No more executive orders from the HOA throne." "Good," I said. "Start with honesty." She left quietly. 2 days later, I installed a new sign at the base of my road. Just a simple weatherproofed plaque on a cedar post. Private road. Caldwell Property Emergency Vehicles. Access always permitted. Below that, in smaller print, "This is not part of Crestview Heights. Not now. Not ever." I didn't expect anyone to laugh, but I caught more than one neighbor smirking when they drove past. I think even the sheriff chuckled the first time he saw it. I kept the drone footage, the legal filings, even the fake documents Monica had tried to leak. All of it stored neatly on an external drive in a drawer marked HOA War 2025. Maybe someday I'll write a book. But for now, I sleep with both eyes closed. The road is open. My name is on the deed. The only gate left is the one on my back fence, and it creaks when it swings in the wind. That's the kind of gate I can live with.